This next gives an overview on intellectual property and how it's controlled in Canada. So what is intellectual property? It's basically any idea that can somehow be captured that is unique in some way. It includes copyrighted materials, things that are patentable, industrial processes, trademarks. And it's worth noting that intellectual property is important from a point of view of ensuring that the person who came up with the idea gets credit for it. In addition, there can be significant financial rewards depending on what the owner of the idea actually wants to do with it. Intellectual property applies equally to scientific or engineering ideas as well as artistic ones. And there are a number of laws that govern intellectual property around copyright, patents, design, trademarks, trade secrets, and also keeping ideas confidential. So the first of these, copyright, is, as the name suggests, the right to copy. You can only cover something with copyright if it is so-called original and fixed. Original is when the product has not been generated previously, and fixed means it's able to be produced onto some fixed medium. So what this means is, for example, oral expression doesn't qualify for copyright. The range of things that copyright law can cover is obviously significant and growing in the digital era. So an idea itself is generally not typically copyrighted, but you might express the idea in some fixed format, and that could then be copyrighted. Copyright exists automatically. However, if you do put a registration or mark on your material, then it will ensure that people can't claim that they didn't realize that that material was copyrighted. The owner of a copyright is not necessarily the person who owns the moral rights, and we'll talk about moral rights in a second. If you work for a company, then that company may be the first owner of the copyright. So copyright exists for the life of the author, not the owner, the author, plus 50 years, except for certain exceptions where it's a straight 50 years from creation. So in addition to the ownership of copyright, there are moral rights, which cannot be assigned to anybody. The author has the moral rights, but they could choose to waive those rights. And those rights allow them to have their work never distorted or modified in any way that might prejudice them. The next type of intellectual property we'll discuss is the trademark. So this is something that distinguishes a product or a service or the provider of that product or service. There are two marks, the TM and the registered trademark symbol. And the registration is national. Every country where you want that trademark registered, you have to register. And in Canada, it lasts for 15 years, but you can renew it. You have to file a trademark with a trademark agent who will search for any similar trademarks in that country, and then they get published in a trademarks journal to allow other trademark agents to ensure their trademarks are not being violated. We will talk about patents in the next mix, but generally when you're thinking about the intellectual property that you have, it's worth considering what the best mechanism is to protect it. In many cases, keeping it confidential may be the best approach. However, in others, it might be that it's appropriate for copyright or for patent. So in addition to any moral rights, there is an important aspect to intellectual property from a financial point of view. Intellectual property can be licensed, and those royalties can add up to a significant amount of money. You can sell intellectual property, you can use it as equity when starting up a business. and it can be applied to contracts or consulting. So there is a lot of value intrinsic in intellectual property. If you want to dig further into IP, I provide the links to the Canadian and US and World Intellectual Property Office pages, plus some links in New York that detail how to control and manage your own IP.